This is the Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast.
The following contest is scheduled for one fall.
Let's go nuts! It's Jimmy Nuts! Drive out with a car!
With your hosts, Mark Martinez.
Remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things.
And the English Professor.
It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.
Hey, this is former WWE superstar Duke, the Dumpster Drosy, and you are listening to the Can Crushers Podcast.
And welcome back to Can Crushers Weekly Show. Mark Martinez alongside the guru, Chad Piranha. Chad, it's been a bit since we've been in studio as holidays. It's always nice to take that week off, and I'll tell you, that week off from Christmas to New Year's, I didn't watch any wrestling. I reset myself, and I didn't watch any wrestling.
I didn't watch that much myself, with AEW not being on, NXT, just being a pre-tape show. Just the interest wasn't in there to watch it.
Yeah, in NWA, they did the holiday show. It was good, but it wasn't their great. I mean, they knew everybody takes that week off. At least Can Crusher fans do. At least, I don't know. So it was nice. Did you have good holidays?
Good holiday. It was nice, peaceful. Santa's good to me. Gave me permission for 2 wrestling trips at least this year. So we're good.
So do I know which wrestling trips they are? Are they going to be the Crockett Cup and WrestleCade again?
Crockett Cup if it happens again, and definitely WrestleCade.
So WrestleCade, we can punch our tickets.
Yep.
Pretty much. And hopefully we can bring a couple other yahoos that are involved with this.
If we got a time to the car,
Right, just
whatever.
bring them down.
Yep.
Bring them down. All right, again, as we normally do, we're getting back to this tradition. I have a White Street Relax Session beer brought to you by Justin Placer. Once again, this kid keeps feeding us beers. It's amazing. I love it. 4.5% alcohol. It's already topped. Fresh and bright is what it says. I don't know. Here we go. Oh, it's an IPA. Big time beer, small town soul. It's like I had 6 of them already. I just came from church, and I sound loaded. What do you think? It's an IPA. I don't know if you're going to like it.
Oh, that's got a different taste to it. That's not bad.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I really like this.
I would drink that.
Another home run, Justin. Thank you. White Street Brewing Company. Get online, and Justin will tell us more about this beer. He's kind of like our beer connoisseur. Well, his dad and their buddies are beer vendors. They go all over the place. So we need to hang out over Shenanigans a little bit more. They have a lot on tap, and hopefully we can just do a podcast over there of us getting drunk. That sounds great.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
That's always great.
Until the next morning.
Especially if you drink 13 straight hours at a Christmas party or making cheese. Then you're a mess.
Yeah.
All right, so like I said, we didn't watch a lot during the Christmas to New Year's break, but we are back on track, and big things. You sent me a text yesterday saying, did you watch Wrestle Kingdom Part 1? And I said no. Let's talk about that right off the bat, because there's no other way to lead than thank you, Liger.
Yeah, Justin Thunder Liger. If you remember him back in the 80s, his first real big introduction to the U.S. was against Brian, fighting just awesome series of matches with Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
In the American style, but it's a Japanese legend. It's, one of the few remaining from the 80s that are active, and he still was fully active. He was wrestling quite a bit. He's just on his own decided to call it quits.
And he wanted to call it a quit. I mean, he's made this known now for 8-9 months that his final matches are going to be at Wrestle Kingdom. This is where he wants to hang it up. This is where he wants to take his mask off and call it a career. And I didn't get to see the whole event, day one. Day two, you're going to watch here in about an hour or so, right?
Yeah.
I did see some of what happened on day two this morning, just the pomp and circumstance. I won't give you any results of the match because you're going to go watch it. But the way they honor their legends over there is unbelievable. And I'm going to steal something from Mr. Evan Ginsberg that WWE just does not do any of that.
No.
We can't say anything for AEW or the new NWA yet or anything like that because they're still young. But WWE does nothing like this. They just blew up his whole goodbye, and it was amazing to watch that.
And you got, if you see, and again, this New Japan Wrestling now not being on the Access channel this year, the only way you're going to be able to get it, you can get it through Fight TV, but you're going to pay,
A lot.
between $20 and $30 an event just for this event. Day one was $25. Go to New Japan World, subscribe. It's 999 yen.
Holy moly! You don't have that much a
I'm
month.
like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to take out a loan. Then the conversion rate knocks it down to $9.25 American dollars. So it's a streaming service. It's just like, kind of like the WWE Network. They have their past events, but if you're a subscriber, you get all these events free that they have. Everything they do is free on there. New Japan World, easy to sign up.
Did you about shit yourself when you saw 999,000 yen or whatever you just said? Did you put the conversion in first?
I looked at it and I was like, what in the hell? And then I looked on another thing on Facebook and it said it was like $9.25 conversion. And I was like,
So the wife is okay with that?
yeah. Oh, I pulled it on her. I said, hey, I subscribed to this service, wrestling service, so I can watch these pay-per-views. It was 999 yen. And she was like, holy crap. How much is that going to, we got to have money for this, and this. And I'm like, it's $9.25. I got called a few choice names that
No!
just weren't appropriate, but very much worth it. New Japan World, real easy to sign up, but it was in the Tokyo Dome.
That itself.
Just packed. There's like between 40 and 50,000 people, if I'm remembering what they said the attendance was. Everything was packed. Just a hell of a show from top to bottom. Liger's first match was a 10-man tag. It was pretty much his rivals, Fujinami, Seno, the original Tiger Mask.
Which is awesome within itself.
Yeah, and these guys can still move. Oh my god, Fujinami, remember him from having a hell of a series of matches with Flair. When Flair was the NWA champion, Fujinami had the world title. But it was just an awesome match. They all got in their shots and everything, and it just looked good. It was really great way to pay respect to him, being, the next to last match of his career.
Yeah, and like we said, last night or early morning today is his last match, and you'll be able to see that on that streaming network, and that's going to be something that maybe I have to talk to Mrs. Can Crusher to subscribe to watch, because, like you said, Access dropped the ball because they didn't want to work. What is being said before I put anything out, they didn't want to work with Impact at all, since Access now owns Impact, or the parent company and all that. They just don't want to work together. No disrespect to Impact, as we are in the works with something with them, so I can't really slam them. New Japan doesn't need Impact, right? Let's put everything on the table. They don't need Impact.
No.
The other way around, though, Impact needs New Japan.
Yeah, it would be extremely lopsided beneficial for Impact to be with New Japan.
Right.
Just, not slamming Impact at all, but the talent level is just
Not
the
there.
production level is just a whole new world, pardon the pun, with New Japan.
Well, see, I thought of Aladdin right off the bat. Now the song "A Whole New World" is stuck in my head.
Well,
but,
please don't give up your day job.
I know. So that's kind of what happened with us over the holiday break, and not a lot going on. Just slowly getting back into it. Did you? I'm sure you didn't yet because you were up early. You watched New Japan. How about Retromania? It's blowing up, isn't it? And it's cool that we got in at the ground level. We got to talk to Mr. Michael Herman. If you didn't listen to it, go back. It's actually now sponsored on Facebook for the next couple of days. It's just going to be popping up in people's business. It's blowing up on our site already.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple of different sites that I belong to just to, see what's going on in the pro wrestling world, and everybody's talking about it. It's something that everybody's like, okay, when's this coming out? When's this coming out? What format? People are like, don't care how much. Where is it at?
That's the greatest thing. Don't care how much. Mr. Michael Herman, and he's like, just call me Mike, but I can't because I'm so stoked over it. It's going to be under $30. Under $30 for this game. And he said there's going to be DLCs down the line, but, some you're going to get for free, some you're going to have to pay for. It's not going to be all paid for like some other games that we know. But at the first cost of $30, I'm already willing to buy 4 or 5 DLCs at $10 a crack to get me up to the normal price anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's just well worth it. It's something back to, where you're
WrestleFest.
You're not starting out at $90 and still having to, pay to get, former superstars and everything like that. It's really jumping off the books,
Yeah.
so to speak.
All platforms, guys, if you haven't listened to the podcast, all platforms are going to get it. Xbox One, PlayStation 4. The Switch was the first one that it was announced for, and that's actually why I caved and bought the Switch before I knew it was coming to PlayStation. And then he announces on our show that it is possibly coming to arcade. That within itself, I've always wanted an arcade game. We would put it in the studio. I don't know where we'd have to move something. Another bookcase or something would have to move out to have an arcade game. You played WrestleFest 1991, right?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
How about the video game that we seen at WrestleCade that the guy from North Carolina is selling?
Right.
It's something you'd sit on your table or whatever, top part of a game, and for $800,
yeah,
it has
13,000
games on it, and
from like Atari to PlayStation 1 and just regular arcade games that never went anywhere.
The older wrestling games, he had that one obviously showcasing that. And the guy makes them in his garage.
Yeah.
And they look more solid than something that would come from a factory to me.
They do. He said, I'm saying about 6 to 10 weeks shipped to your house.
Yep.
Great. I'm already thinking if I can, when we know we're going back down to Crockett Cup or WrestleCade, I'll just pick it up. We're going to be down there.
Yeah,
I'll pick it up.
Be in the area. That would be a better idea. Obviously to be insured, being sent up and everything, but why take the chance?
Right. Plus, we'll have it in the hotel room then, too.
And Mark might actually let me drive because he'll probably sit there with it on his lap playing it.
If I could figure a way, it's probably a hell of a DC plug. We'll have to bring like another car battery to...
Yeah, just run it into the back seat.
So you're going to drive your truck down. We'll put it in the bed of the truck, the battery and the extensions and everything, out the back window.
Yeah, we can do this. We can rig it.
We're going to have to figure a way to set up a dashboard. If you wreck and you kill me and break my game the first day that I have it, I'm going to be upset. I really am.
I don't think you're going to be the only one. I'd be upset about my truck.
The wife won me. The wife instantly, boom, big money from life insurance.
Hey, mine's that way too, so.
All right. So that's what we did. We're going to take a quick break. You're going to hear from Al Snow and our great sponsor from Collar and Elbow. Guys, remember that when you check out from Collar and Elbow, when you buy all your hats, hoodies, tees, anything that you have, the great merchandise that they have, type in Can Crushers, capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. Whatever sale they're having, you get an extra 10% off from that. So let's head over to Al, and then we'll be back. We'll probably start with AEW and NWA and leave WWE for the tail end again.
As usual.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. Two entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
This is Dylan Bostic. They're paying me to say this, so you should listen to Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast, only because they paid me to say this.
And welcome back to Can Crushers. Mark and Chad here. Slowly getting into the new year. As you can tell, we had a lot of interviews in the hopper, but we're just bringing the weekly show back. They're going to continue. Our whole month of January is booked with some pretty solid interviews. Won't be giving any spoilers. I don't like giving spoilers like that, but if you just listen to somebody that has brought us back from the break, you'll put two and two together that he's going to be on the show real quick. And yeah, we had to give him a few bucks. Dylan Bostic is just he's a rough guy to get on the show.
All the matches in IWC, first guy I always picked to hate when I went was Bostic. He is a heel's heel. And anybody who can sit up there, well, a couple of hundred fans, 500 fans or so, or, chanting Dylan Ballsack, then it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I agree. He's a douche. I'll just leave it at that. You can listen to the interview on Wednesday. I said no spoilers, but clearly if you understand who brings us back, the first break that we have, that interview is going to be the next one in line. We have an interview Wednesday, and we'll talk about everything that he's doing and if he's going to return to IWC anytime soon. But let's dive into AEW. And Chad, let me tell you, I got pumped for AEW from the opening package. There was just something different that they tweaked on the opening package, and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be an MFing great show this weekend.
Yeah, I was excited with the lineup, looking at the lineup, but also timid because, we had talked when we had John on here about you're just
train wreck or not. But from the opening match, Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes, just so well put together. I mean, their production is number one to me right off the bat. I brought this up to John in some text earlier this week, and we all say SmackDown is the number one show on TV, not cable. NXT is still on USA. Fox is supposed to be far and wide the number one show, the number one brand. I don't like, this is me being a nerd, I don't like their camera work. It just seems gritty, or it seems like they're using the NFL cameras for wrestling, and it doesn't play the same.
They are shooting with their layouts, their angles, their levels, in that they're shooting the wrestling like they would shoot a sporting event.
Baseball,
like
football, soccer, something.
Yeah, they're shooting it like that, and it's not as
appealing,
as intimate of a feel.
I don't know what you're watching.
It's
what
not
kind of wrestling are you watching?
It's not that kind of wrestling.
Oh,
that's on cable.
That's on cable.
By intimate, I mean it's not. The shots are just not. You're not as glued into the wrestlers. You're not as glued into the fans, unless there's they're looking for an absolute kid freaking out or somebody crying or something like that. It's just they're just trying to capture everything. They're not shooting wrestling. They're shooting
the entire
freaking whatever arena and stuff. It's just off. I don't
get it.
I don't care for it myself.
I don't either. How about Taz filling in? Nothing. I love Tony Schiavone on there. Now let me say this, and I bet you I'll get a lot of people on my side. I want it to be JR, Tony Schiavone, and Taz. Nothing against Excalibur. Whatever, he wears a mask, whatever, he's getting better. But I think Excalibur would be better as the sideline guy, the backstage guy. He could be hokey back there with his mask on, fine and dandy. Taz was freaking awesome.
It was like he had... I was actually kind of stunned. He
didn't skip a beat.
Thing. Yeah, it was like he hadn't lost a thing.
Yeah.
And
that added to the whole package of this week.
They just gelled together. I could kind of tell with Taz and a little bit of his laughing and snickering that he didn't seem to care for Excalibur. I bet you if they were zoomed on Taz or whatever, you probably would have seen him roll his eyes. But I agree. I'd rather have, Tony Schiavone, Taz, and Jim Ross, because you have Ross's emotion. You have Taz, who knows the wrestling as being a wrestler. And you have Schiavone to tie both of them together.
The analyst, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think the only thing Excalibur brings is that he knows a lot of Spanish and can rename moves in the Spanish version.
Stop it, because I understand everything that he's saying. My biggest beef of AEW is, and I understand why this happens, Cody wrestles first or he wrestles last, because he does other things. The Cody Darby match was the best match of the night. I loved all of them. And there's nothing bad I can say about any match. I love them all. But damn it, I wish Cody would wrestle last more.
I'd like to see him push him back, but I think they did this one, honestly, new year, new show. Let's just start right the hell out with the best that we have to offer. And, of course, everything
reset. Let's talk about that.
Talk about all fell in. It was great, but I think that they really wanted to start off their show with wrestling.
And we have a guest in the studio all of a sudden as the dog's made his way down, so apologize for anything that happens there. The wife must have fell asleep, so the dog's here, and he'll say hello. That's it's a welcome event, right?
Yep.
All right. So how about Arn being a personal advisor head coach? Not a manager, but a personal advisor head coach.
A little weird to me. I wasn't quite sure. I'm not quite sure where they're going with this. I thought it was a little weird, that Cody's at the end of the match. Cody's down, and Arn tells him to lift his knees, and Cody lifts his knees. I thought that was okay. That's okay, but I don't think it fits in with Cody with his experience level to, for something like that. Personally, I think they're setting up. It's going to be Arn turning on him.
Well, I don't want to spoil the English professor's pontification because he goes in detail about this, but Dusty Rhodes and Arn Anderson never liked each other, and we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that because he gets into it pretty deep. Okay? So, spoiler alert, that's what he's going to talk about. Nonetheless. But this match, the coffin drop was amazing again. What Darby does the best suicidal dives across the board. Because Ricky Morton's talked about this, he puts his whole body into it. He doesn't land on his feet when he hits these. The coffin drops, the suicidal dive, whatever you want. He lands however he lands. And it makes it look more realer. Not a real word, but it makes it just that much better.
Much more believable. When a guy does a suicide dive out and all he does is basically slaps a guy with his hands on his chest and excuse me, and the guy rolls and the guy lands on his feet, it takes away from it. Now when the guy goes through the rope
sideways,
just bulldogs the dude and looks like he's trying to cut him in half, it just makes it more palatable. It's just a lot more believable.
I posted a story this week on Facebook saying that Cody still is not in competition with NXT. He's like, we are having fun. We are not competing with NXT yet. And I believe Cody. I really do. Maybe I'm a mark. Maybe I'm a sucker. That, yeah, wrestling is a business, right? It's about making money, right? But I truly believe Cody's not really caring what NXT is doing because they're there because they're a different brand of professional wrestling than NXT is, by far.
Yeah, I think right now they're not so much competing with NXT because they're new. They're in their, I don't want to say probationary period with TNT, but I think it's a thing of they're trying to figure stuff out, get, what's working, what's not. They're going to have silly, stupid stuff, not as much as WWE, thankfully. But, as long as the ratings are about where they're at, they're happy. If the ratings start sliding really bad, then, yeah, they're going to be competing with NXT because you're going to have TNT looking at them, be like, hey, they had 500,000 more viewers than us, and you guys are putting, the Dick guy or
whoever,
Orange Cassidy out there in your main event or something like that.
Well, I'm glad you brought up ratings because those were released already, and I'm rounding. Don't throw me under the bus. So AEW got around 900,000. NXT got around 500,000. So they almost doubled them this week. I didn't watch NXT. I didn't watch NXT this week. So did you watch NXT?
Quite a bit of it. Scanned through. I didn't watch it live, of course. It was pre-taped.
That's
stuff,
why then.
And it was their awards,
and we'll get to those.
And some clips of matches and highlights and stuff like that. So I think this week's ratings,
throw them away
for NXT. Throw them away.
Okay. All right. That's because I saw the ratings before I knew it was the awards. I heard the awards were done, but I didn't know it was the awards show. So we'll get to that then, because I did see what happened on the awards show. All right. SCU has their interview. Sammy Guevara comes out and sets up a match for Daniels next week. But let me say this. We haven't had a title change yet in AEW. Okay? I don't think it needs to be Jericho. I think the women's is going to happen sooner than later. And I'm okay if Riho has it a little bit longer. Still not a fan of her, but I'm okay because she just has so many competitors right now. SCU being tag team champions isn't working for me. I don't know. I'm not a Private Party fan. I'm sure as shit not a Young Bucks fan. I don't know, but I just think there needs to be a title change soon here in AEW, and I think the tag team ones are the ones that need to change.
Yeah, I think they're the most likely to, just because having a face as tag team champions, it's just not. It was great to start out with, but now if you want to keep interest, you got to have them pursuing the tag belts. You can't have them constantly holding them and beating everybody. They've done it. Okay, now let them get screwed to the title. Go with the pursuit.
A face is so much harder to do in wrestling than a heel is, right?
Yeah, especially to market it right to the people, because you're always going to have people that, I think back to when Chris Benoit was in pursuit of the world title in WWE. Oh my gosh, one of the greatest storylines. But after he won it, it was just kind of,
Right.
It was good matches, everything like that, but it just fizzled. And I think that's about where SCU is right now.
I've always been an advocate of the Dark Order. I liked what they were doing from the start. I really did. I liked that there was an athletic guy in the group, and then there was a 1980s Jake Milligan, Crusher, Blackwell, a fat guy that he did power moves. I'll put it that way. Now they're building. Are you at least on board with the Dark Order yet?
I'm getting there. They just gotta. Every time I think of them, I think of the botch at the end of the show where the guy was punching the mat about 2 feet from Dustin's head.
Yeah, that was rough.
They're starting to get a little bit more. They need to do the group beat downs of people and stuff like that. That's how they're going to get them over and believable.
Let's head over to the women's 4-way match. It was Nyla Rose, Shida, our girl Britt Baker, and Riho. I'm going to say this. Britt was the first, besides Brandy, Britt was the first woman on this roster. When's she going to catch a break? Like, she's had a title shot. This was her kind of second title shot. She's been screwed over. She's the babyface doing the chase. But we're into this now. And you have Statlander being the number one contender, getting her shot next week. Does Britt come out and screw over Statlander next week? Because Statlander's been on like 3 weeks. Boom, she's number one contender. Are we going to have a few? I would love Britt to actually get a little bit more vicious.
I think if you've seen the interview where they had Riho back there talking with her interpreter, and Britt come back and gave her the Brock Lesnar chastise, you're never around type deal, blah, blah, blah. I think Britt's going to screw her, Riho, of the title. I think there's something in there. I don't think Britt's going to go and screw Statlander.
Oh.
I don't think she's going to screw Statlander. I think she's going to do something to Riho and cost her the title.
And I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
I'm all right with that. I don't know if it's going to happen next week on the show. Maybe a double disqualification or something happens and it sets it up. There are pay-per-views in about 3 weeks, I think. Date's not off. Then we have Trent, and he's going to take on Moxley. Chuck's out there, your boy Orange Cassidy. This match is good or bad as Trent is. This was a good to almost great match for him. Like, Moxley is carrying this, and I have a lot to say about Moxley after we talk about the match. This was a good match. It really was.
It let it show that Trent's not just a joke or just a tag team wrestler. He really showed him, okay, yeah, Moxley was in there, and we'll have the discussion about that. But this looked believable.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked good. It wasn't a botch fest. Stuff wasn't off. It was like, holy shit, who is this guy? I mean, he's a viable
contender.
Give him a different persona or something like that if you take him to singles, but he's a viable contender.
This is where I know MJF has the ring, and that's kind of their secondary whatever, but I think they need a secondary title. The national championship is with NWA. The TV title is with NWA. U.S. is in WWE. North America, make a title up. You're AEW, you're a new company. Make up a new title for your mid-carders, as I do the air quotes. Give them something, because Trent, we haven't seen Orange Cassidy in the ring yet, but apparently he can wrestle. And there's other people, Sammy G, that, are the mid-carders that they should have something to go for as well, right?
Yeah, I think
it's time enough.
I was, for a couple of weeks I've been going back and forth. Should they have a mid-card title? They're too new. They're not really establishing a lot of people. But I think the mid-card title would... I've come around to it. I think it would help the guys who aren't going to be in the main event storylines and that, with Jericho, with Moxley. I think it would be a good title for them, and it would help them, and it'd be a little bit more interest. And it was hard for me to come to that because I think of WWE and everybody and their mother having a title in WWE, but there's too many in WWE.
Way too
in
many.
AEW.
And they're worthless in WWE.
Yeah, it's a prop now. A mid-card title in AEW, I think that could be a lot of interest because you could have anybody who's not in the main event matches.
Hangman Page would fit that perfectly, right?
Definitely, yeah. He's one of them. As much as I hate that little twerp Guevara, he could be, a player in that.
Right.
I just think it'd be a good title for those guys that, aren't going to be in the world title hunt, seriously.
So Jericho comes out after Moxley gets the win, and great promo. Well, he doesn't come out. Sammy G comes out, and we go back outside Jacksonville Jaguar Stadium, and Jericho says, hey, we're going to give you money, we're going to give you a car, we're going to give you 49% ownership of the Inner Circle, blah, 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 blah. Moxley, you need to join us. Now, I will ask you first, because I already have my thoughts in my head. Does Moxley do this next week, wherever the hell they're going? They're in Memphis, by the way. A great card on Memphis, too. I'll put a spoiler out on that, too. But go ahead. Moxley, join them.
Oh. I'm going to say, I hate to say it, yes.
Yes.
But with the caveat that he is going to, they're going to say, okay, we don't fight each other type deal, and he's going to destroy Jericho, and it's not going to be very long. If he doesn't do it on next week's show, it'll be within 2 weeks that he turns on him. 2-3 weeks at the most.
I said a month. I'm on board completely because he joins next week. Okay, he says yes, and then the following week he's a whipping boy. He just, and we'll get to that here in a second, which I love that. He's a whipping boy for him because Jericho's just going to bury him because rankings mean something. So he's going to get thrown in a 6-on-1 match and get destroyed. Moxley is great, but 6-on-1 against the Dark Order, he'll get destroyed. Or he'll have to fight Private Party, you, me, John, and Soup. Or, he's just going to get destroyed by people to lessen his ranking. At some point, he's going to snap, and then it's going to lead to maybe not this coming pay-per-view, but the following pay-per-view, because this is a story that can go on for a while. I love that they're not pushing stories 2 weeks done, 2 weeks done, 2 weeks done, because we have to have a pay-per-view every 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have a need. And honestly, go back to the NWA days of the 80s and stuff like that when there was only, 3 pay-per-views a year or something like that. You have months to do this with. This one, I don't see them taking out very long.
Okay.
Again, I don't see it much more than a couple of weeks.
So maybe by their next pay-per-view then.
I would say by then, because something's gonna happen where they're gonna, Moxley's gonna be the number 1 contender.
He already is.
And Jericho's gonna say, well, Inner Circle, we don't fight each other. And Moxley's like, well, I'm not giving up my title shot. Well, this is going to, kind of play off the old WWE angle with, who the hell had Batista when he got a shot against Triple H when they were a member of Evolution. I think it's going to play that type of angle. No, I'm not giving up my title shot. Okay, and then they're going to jump him, beat shit out of him. Maybe not. Hey, Moxley's gonna, don't know when he's gonna be back or whatever. Jericho's gonna defend his title. We just don't know who. And then Moxley walks out the show before the pay-per-view and says,
"Screw it, I'm catching it in.
I'll see your ass in the ring."
Nice. Next up was Dustin against Sammy G. And let me just start right now. Ricky Morton has done the Canadian Destroyer. It looks great. All these old guys are now doing the Canadian Destroyer. Dustin's was on the hardest part of the ring, first of all. Let me say that. And with less room to work. That's an amazing move to do in the ring where you have 20 feet, 30 feet to work with. He did it on minimal room. And I don't want to say nobody got hurt, but it landed perfect. Nobody went to a side. Nobody bounced off the ropes. Nobody just fell to the floor. It was spot freaking on.
Something that was, when he set up for it and did it, that scared the hell out of me versus the other ones. So much smaller of an opponent.
Yeah.
Because with that move, you have to rely on your opponent to be able to do a lot. And Dustin completely flipped it. Like you said, Ricky Morton.
He's done it with Latimer both times.
Yeah,
that we've seen.
It's just, I was like, holy shit, he's got to have Guevara by almost 100 pounds, 6'8", and Guevara's got to be like, midget wrestling level. And when he did that to him, I was like, to me, that was more impressive than anybody's that I've seen doing it.
Yeah.
And then throw in, you're doing it on a foot and a half area, not hitting the ropes, dicking it up, kicking the guy in the dink or in the face, falling off the mat, something like that. It was nuts.
Hager has to have a match soon. Otherwise, he's insignificant in AEW. He's been the bully, the bodyguard, whatever. He's been there long enough. At least put him in a prelim match against me. He's got to get in the ring. Otherwise, his bruteness doesn't mean anything to me. Because all he's doing is dastardly things. Do you think anybody?
I think he needs to get in the ring, but I think I think he has one more MMA match. He's contracted for one more. I heard something about February.
Man, so we're looking March. So we're looking a month and a half yet.
So that's kind of playing in. That's only rumblings that I've heard about that because they have, the no compete thing with them and that.
No. Right. Private Party and Hangman segment was stupid. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But
I do agree. You don't put your hands on another man's drink.
No, I agree. Unless it's saying, here, do you want to try this beer? But you just don't grab it. No. MJF and Wardlow, there's not a better talker right now across the board than MJF.
Yeah, he's at the top of his game, and he just oozes being an asshole.
Machismo?
No, asshole.
Oh, okay.
he does it so he's just so, his character is so unlikable.
I love him.
You just boo the hell out of him. And when he's saying some of the stuff, if you watch this again, look at Wardlow, and you can just see his face quivering because he's trying not to laugh.
Right.
It's some of the stuff, and I'm like, oh my God.
So he accepts Cody's challenge, but on 3 stipulations, and this is old school wrestling right here. This brings it all together. 1, they're not going to fight until Revolution, and Cody is not allowed touching MJF.
No matter what MJF does to him.
Right. Cool. We're both all right with that, right?
Yeah, that's typical heel crap.
2nd, he's got to have a match with Wardlow in a cage. So we're already up in the ante. It's not just against Wardlow, the man beast that he is, man with war in his name, the IWC icon, legend, whatever, that we know. He's got to have a match in the cage with him. Cool. I'm all right with that.
Another thing, soften him up.
Right. But this next one is beautiful. It is wonderful. Cody has to take 10 whips on national TV from his belt. So he has to get his ass beat before he'll let him have a match. And Cody can't do anything about it.
This brings me back to, I can go back to the NWA and Tommy Rich going against Buzz Sawyer for the national title and paying Buzz Sawyer the storyline, paying him $25,000 for a title shot, and he had to put his house up for sale. And then you go back to ECW with Tommy Dreamer losing a match to, Sandman?
Oh, yeah, it was.
And he got his
nuts broke.
Yeah, and everything
no other way of saying it.
With the cane, with the Singapore cane, the old style, not the fabricated ones.
Right.
This brings me back. This is
great.
This is going to be interesting because it's like Cody's going to be like, he's going to get hit once and he's going to be like, can I have another?
Right.
And
I can't wait for this. Who knows when Cody's going to answer next week. Then he'll have the match probably against Wardlow in the cage. And then the week after, he's going to probably take the whipping. I love it. The Britt Rio package we already talked about. And this is where I lost it. Again, it was Omega and the Bucks against Pac and the Lucha Brothers. The records we've said have been reset now. And this is the way this match went. Folks, this is my spoiler. 2020 is going to be the year of the Elite. You saw them pick up the win over Pac and Lucha Brothers. I think you're going to see all of them at some point with a title this year. They've pandered to the crowd for a while, losing for the first, 4 months of existence. Now the Young Bucks are going to get right in the line and have these tag team titles.
Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to that. You and I are on the same wavelength as far as the Young Bucks. I think they're highly, highly overrated.
John gave him freaking tag team of the year. He's just...
Yeah, well, John likes Charlotte Flair. That just says a lot right there.
Touche.
Not crazy about the Young Bucks. Kenny Omega.
You love him.
I liked what he did in Japan. I don't like his U.S. wrestling. So I hope they let him get back to a little bit more. I hope he quits the dance finger stuff and everything like that. The spirit fingers or whatever. Not looking forward to this, but unfortunately, I think you're right.
Let's transition to NWA now, which we all say, everybody on this show says, this is a must-watch hour of the week. If you watch it at 6:05 on Tuesday nights, awesome. If you watch it whenever, as long as you watch it, it's a must-watch for the week, right?
Yeah, it's just the old school studio wrestling.
So Tim Storm talks about wanting a TV title on his mama, and Aldis comes out, and we didn't get to talk about Aldis now having a crew of him, Wildcard, and Camille. It was all set up. They're called Strictly Business, which I think they could have came up with a better name. Something Strictly Business, whatever.
Yeah, definitely could have been a little bit more creative there, but at the same token, it kind of fits Aldis.
It does.
Perfectly. The only thing I'm going to say this right off the bat, a little bit of respect for Aldis, because he made a comment to Storm. He said, you don't need to be like Ricky and Robert and holding on to the past. You need to get out of our way.
I actually love that.
You Aldis, you can bite me.
Actually, I liked it because, as we said, Aldis has been, at some points, a heel, at some points a face. Everybody loves him. That at least drew the line saying, oh, damn, Strictly Business is actually a bad guy team now. So I was all right with that. All in all, Aldis says, I don't need that TV title. I'm pulling out. But at the end of the show, you're going to fight Royce, which was great because he's the world champion and he can do whatever the hell he wants, and Tim Storm now has to fight Royce. You all right with that?
Yeah. I mean, that's typical. Flair did that when he had the Horsemen, and yeah, you're going to fight him. He's just pulling his power.
Aldis is leading the division in the NWA, just being the champion that he is. But the hottest thing in the NWA, in my book, is Shooter Stevens and the question mark. Stevens comes out and fights Sal Renaro, Sal Maloney, Sal whatever his name is, in a submission exhibition match. And this, again, we keep saying old school. And that's why we're late in our ages. And it just brings us back that this is just studio wrestling again and again. And I love this. That sets up a real match then with Trevor Murdoch. After he beats Sal with a whatever, he loses to Trevor Murdoch because he taps out. It's perfect writing.
Yeah, this I absolutely love his character. The question mark, I just laugh every time I see him in that. But the way they're playing the former Damian Sandow,
but he brings up that he was him all the time. You know that. He's like, when I was an elegant man or an intelligent man, or he brings around the Sandow references all the time. Sorry.
Yeah, and he's great. He's great on the mic. His mannerisms. This was another one that WWE dropped.
Big time.
They could have done a lot with him, but yeah, he's hilarious. He definitely fits in.
Eli Drake, we talked about him. He was actually one of my picks to do a lot in NWA this year. The time that we made the comparison, well, not we, John, made the comparison of him being Stone Cold and The Rock, now he's pushing the envelope a little bit too much. The hey, yeah, every 5 seconds might get a little bit annoying. But he's pandering the crowd, and the crowd's sucking it up.
Yep, that's exactly what he's doing. He's playing the crowd.
How'd you like the Tasha Steele, Marty Bell match? I thought this was going to go the other way. Marty trying to get back into good graces and everything. And I thought, well, Tasha new to NWA. She might, take some losses for a while. She's one of my favorites out there. And I was glad to see her win. It excels the storyline, though, for Marty and those guys.
I was along the same lines. I figured she was probably going to lose, but it wasn't an over surprise that she won to me. I guess I was kind of
in the middle.
In the middle, 51-49 on how it was going to go. But another good match with them.
Then you have Storm against Royce. I love the 605. We didn't get to talk about this because the TV tournament started when we were on break. I love the 605 time limit on your TV title tournament matches. It just fits. It's just something. It's not 10 minutes, because that's what it used to be when Arn had it, 10 minutes. They've brought it down to 6 minutes and 5 seconds that you have to win the match.
I wish it was longer. I kind of wish it would be, 15 or 20 minutes.
Well, I bet you once the title is out there, it goes to that.
That's what I'm hoping. If it's going to be on every week, a good 15-minute match, and that can really play, into the champion getting his butt whipped for 14 minutes and 59 seconds, or, the challenger holding on and deserves another title shot because the champion couldn't beat him. So many ways they can play with that.
And how'd you like the match between Storm and Royce?
I'm a Storm fan. I liked it. I mean, it was competitive. It wasn't overly done. It was a typical NWA match. To me, it was a little bit more than a studio match, so to speak. Probably like a mid to upper card level pay-per-view match, I thought.
Nice.
Was the way I looked at it. But again, I've always been a fan of Storm, and they look good in the ring.
So I know we threw them all out there with everything that's gone on in the TV title tournament picture. Any changes on who you think's going to win?
Yep.
No, you're good. All right, me too.
Yep.
All right, just saying. All right, so we can throw the music in right now. You got some news for us?
Yeah, a little bit of history here. I've been doing a lot of reading about contracts and when contracts came up, and until the mid 80s, around 86, the only place that there was actual contracts was WWE. And surprisingly, and you'll laugh at this, the contract that Vince had everybody sign was $150 per appearance.
It's a lot back then, though, for appearances.
And they'd pay your transportation one way in your hotel room. But where this would get screwy, you go to Canada, okay, they're going to give you $150. You don't wrestle for 3 days. You got to pay 2 days of a hotel room. You got to pay to get back from wherever in Canada,
Montreal
to back to Atlanta or New York. You had to pay, as a wrestler, you had to pay that back. WWE never paid the what do you call it, on the gate, so to speak.
Right.
So it was, they paid like that, which was, I thought, really weird. Then you go to the NWA side, and when what's his name, Turner got involved, the first 3 people to get contracts in the NWA / WCW was Sting, Luger, and the Road Warriors. Nobody else had guaranteed contracts because they paid based on gate. So you could go, and I'll pull, because I read a lot of Jim Cornette stuff. They would go wrestle, and let's say the gate was 5,000 people. They may only get $200 a piece.
Yeah, because it's also depending on which match you're in then too, right?
Yeah.
Main event's definitely going to make the most, and then you're going to trickle down to prelim or dark matches, as it's called nowadays, aren't getting but catering.
Yeah, they're getting catering and $50. Now, where these contracts started getting the guaranteed contracts, and that is when people started pulling stunts between WWF and WCW. What was one of the most famous jumps? Luger's. Vince was pissed that Luger did what he did because he was on both WWF. He was on both in the same freaking day. That's
at the same time.
Within
essentially
within an hour or something of each other. Now the other side of that, what was another one?
Scott Hall.
Well,
you didn't know who he was.
I'm going when Medusa dumped the title in the garbage.
Without a doubt.
That led to her and Luger were the direct reasons why Vince McMahon put in the 90-day no compete clause, and it started the whole intellectual property thing of the title belts, because Vince was worried that this crap was going to happen again, where somebody was going to take the title, go and throw it away. He was fine when Flair did it and came with the world title when Flair left WCW, but he was worried because their business was really hurting for about 2 years there, and if he would have lost his world champion, so that's where the no compete and the intellectual property stuff came into WWE contracts, and then that started the guaranteed contracts,
which started the downfall of wrestling for a while.
Absolutely, because that's when when Turner got involved, and you had Bischoff, and Bischoff's paying ungodly amounts.
Virgil.
Iron Sheik.
Right.
You know the whole story with the Iron Sheik and contract. They bring him in. He couldn't really perform. He couldn't do anything. He's just there. They tell him, just to go home or whatever. Well, they forget about his damn contract, and it was a $150,000 contract. Well, the contract automatically renewed, and then the Iron Sheik got $300,000 for another year, and they didn't use
doing
him.
Nothing.
But this is I thought it was fascinating that the Medusa throwing the title in, the garbage Luger showing up. That's what started the whole 90-day clause and the intellectual property and started the big contracts.
One that I always, we'll dive on this for a second before we take a break, listen to the English Professor, and come back and skim over WWE. The one that I think they got boned on the most because he wasn't used correctly. He was hot when he shifted over, but they buried him real quick. I think the Bret Hart one, personally, made them lose everything they had. I mean, they were still hot with Hall and Nash, and they had way too many people in NWO by then. But I think the Bret Hart one, once they signed him for bajillions dollars for how many shows or whatever?
$2.5 million for a 3-year contract.
And then he just was not used.
Well, remember how
he had championship, but he just wasn't Bret Hart.
Remember how they brought him in, how he made his first appearance, though. They bring him in, Sting and Hogan. This is after Hogan dogged it and screwed the whole momentum of Sting coming back. Just screwed the whole thing. They had Bret come down, tell the referee to go to hell, punch the referee, and then restart the match.
Yeah.
Well, what authority? Where
did you get that?
Where did all this come from and everything?
Right.
And then Sting wins the title. And if you see the one Sting video, he talks about this. He said Hogan screwed it, and when they brought Bret in, they buried him because at that point it was he was done. It was a joke.
Yeah, that's the only reason. Once Montreal happened, and they just paid him to do whatever, and we can get into. I think that's a subject that we have a nice roundtable about this year. I'd like to do more of those this year too. By the way, maybe scrap a weekly show, and if the English Professor and Soup or somebody are up here that we can corral all of us, just do a roundtable. What we really think about the screw job. What we really think about times, because I think that makes for great. We all have different aspects. We're all on the same page, but some do more research than other. I'm just the voice, so you know where I am. I think that adds to a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. It's you see like the WWE has a table of 3 and the guys talking.
We can have a 6-pack.
The dark side of the ring had the Montreal thing. There's just so much stuff that has come out.
There's times
over that through the years. It's like at first you see it and you're like thinking, "Holy shit, they're really pissed," and then it comes out in the paper a couple of days later that Bret knocked McMahon out in the freaking locker room. Whatever, and then no, he literally did. So much stuff with that.
There's times, and that's one that we're going to have to jump on real quick, but there's times that I'm on both sides. I'm like, oh, it was completely a work, or I'm like, holy shit, this wasn't. This was real life hitting it. But, all right, the English Professor has a lot to say. We'll be back to skim over some of our random thoughts on WWE and tell you guys, not us, because we know what's going on, where we're going to be around January and what else is going on, and maybe who else we've partnered with here in the near future.
The Iron Sheik held Bob Backlund's wrists behind his back and twisted like he was revving a motorcycle. On an episode of WWF Superstars just days before this Madison Square Garden World Title match, Bob Backlund had been baited by the proposal that no American could swing the Persian clubs for the same amount of time as the Iron Sheik. Backlund removed his brown suit coat, vest, and white button-down shirt. Although he had some difficulties at first, the encouragement of the crowd and their chants of USA willed him to do what no other American had been able to do. Backlund gripped the clubs, lifted his right arm over his head, then his left. He gained his balance and swung his right arm back. He brought his right arm forward again and swung his left arm back. After just a few seconds, Backlund had found a rhythm and was swinging the Persian clubs. Ayatollah Blasi's laughter at Backlund's earlier struggles were now replaced by looks of concern. Sheik appeared defeated and humiliated as Backlund was poised to surpass the number of swings by the Iranian #1 contender. The WWF champ was poised to crush the record of the Olympic gold medalist when the Iron Sheik hit Backlund from behind. The champion fell to the mat with one of the 75-pound clubs landing on his neck and arm. Backlund was able to spring to his feet, but the damage had been done. Blassie and Sheik ran for the hills while Backlund remained in the ring, clutching his neck and doing laps around the squared circle, desperately trying to process the pain. Aware of this injury to the second longest reigning WWF champion, the Iron Sheik worked the match with half Nelsons, front face locks, arm bars, and double wrist locks. As the Sheik twisted Backlund's arms at the wrists, the Princeton graduate turned into his opponent and reversed the hold momentarily before Sheik reversed it back. At ringside, eager for his man to maintain the hold and to not fall into the same reversal, Blassie made a suggestion. "Sheik!" he shouted. "Put the knee in the back!" Sheik nodded and placed his right knee between Backlund's shoulder blades, locking the champion in place and applying more pressure to the damaged neck and shoulder. Gorilla Monsoon and Pat Patterson marveled at the continuity of the challenger and his cornerman. "You can hear Blassie telling Sheik, 'Put the knee in the back,'" Patterson said. "And Sheik is listening to him." Gorilla talked about the importance of having someone in your corner. Patterson discussed his own miscues from his wrestling career. "So many times I would go back and watch my matches and say, 'I could have done this. I should have been doing that.' But when you're in that ring, you don't think like that." "Well, hindsight is 20/20, Pat," Gorilla sighed, perhaps recalling some of his own missed opportunities in the ring. Backlund attempted one last reversal, a backslide, which he had used to defeat the Iron Sheik in the past. But the upper body muscles of the champion required to perform the cinching pin were too injured and fatigued. Backlund crumbled to the mat, holding his arm and neck just like he had days earlier on Superstars. Blassie had a hard time remaining seated as he screamed and motioned for his man to administer more punishment. "Kick him! Kick him!" Blassie screamed. Sheik nodded but did not obey. Instead, he gave a look that suggested, "I got this," as he came up behind Backlund and snared him in a chinlock. Sheik continued to apply pressure on the back until Backlund fell forward and found himself in the camel clutch. Aside from the 250 pounds of his opponent, Backlund carried the weight of all the American fans who believed in him and therefore refused to surrender. Arnold Skolin saw that his man wasn't going anywhere and made a merciful decision. He threw Backlund's towel into the ring to signify they were conceding the fight. In the locker room, the Hollywood fashion plate gushed over the Sheik, telling Lord Alfred Hayes that he had never been so proud. In the other locker room, the former champion was in tears, not because of the pain in his neck and back, but because he felt he had disappointed his fans and his country. Skolin held a cold compress to Backlund's neck and offered due credit to the Iron Sheik for his victory, but assured us that his man was the true champion. Had we fans been presented with just the wrestling match between these two superb athletes, that would have been fine. But it was the managers who added layers to this story. Even though Skolin was not nearly as vocal as Blassie, the Golden Boy's performance was no less important. Throughout the grueling battle, Skolin never took his eyes off the match. If Blassie was Ozzie Guillen, Skolin was Joe Torre. It's fun to have managers in pro wrestling again. Fans have been demanding managers for years, but we were denied this simple form of entertainment by WWE's refusal to do anything fun. Just to be clear, Paul Heyman is not a manager. It has nothing to do with his title of advocate. He was never a manager. The original Midnight Express didn't last long, and the Samoan SWAT team was better without him. The Dangerous Alliance were established stars, many of whom didn't need him as a mouthpiece. Heyman strikes me as someone who showed up at the house and no one has the heart to tell him to leave. Calling him the advocate is another attempt by WWE to distance themselves from anything resembling pro wrestling, just like wrestlers have to call themselves superstars. On an unrelated note, I'm curious to see if Shooter Stevens can hold on to his NWA National Heavyweight Championship belt. And I'm intrigued to see if he and the question mark can combine their knowledge of karate to win the NWA World Tag Team belts. Plus, the question mark is entered into the tournament for the NWA World Television title belt. And if they were to be successful in acquiring all of those belts, then surely they would be top contenders for the NWA World Heavyweight title belt. But back to the matter at hand. This week's NWA and AEW episodes showed once again why the WWE lacks creativity. Although we haven't seen Heyman in months because he's associated with Brock Lesnar, when we do see him, it's the same old story. He goes through his speech, and the same fans who hate him will sing along with the words because they have a bad case of FOMO. It's true that for the most part, managers, as we remember them, are obsolete. In a time when a lot of the wrestling business is out in the open, it is becoming increasingly difficult to make cynics and fans believe. Bobby Heenan likely wasn't booking travel arrangements and meal plans for Ray the Crippler Stevens. He wasn't cutting Nick Bockwinkel's checks or signing his contracts. But maybe we believed it then. And if WWE had any creativity left, they'd find a way to make us believe it now. Arn Anderson is Cody's advisor/coach. This was a head-scratcher for me. Surely, Cody must know that Arn broke Dusty's hand. Dustin must have told his kid brother how Arn turned on him when he most needed someone. One could even argue that more than Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, and Barry Windham, Arn Anderson was Rhodes' horseman enemy number one. Nevertheless, Anderson's presence helped Cody gain a victory over Darby Allin and end a losing streak that was getting to be a little ridiculous for such a huge star. Before the match, Anderson covered his mouth as he talked to Cody. And just like Gorilla Monsoon and Pat Patterson forwarded the manager's story 36 years ago, Jim Ross, Taz, and Excalibur explained why Anderson was covering his mouth. In an era when athletes and teams are trying to gain every advantage, legal or otherwise, Anderson knows the importance of keeping information private. Arn Anderson probably watched the 2017 ALCS and knows the only reason Houston beat the Yankees was because of recorded signs. So he felt it best to cover his mouth just in case there was anyone relaying information to Allin. In the end, Allin ascended the top rope and attempted a coffin drop. He may have succeeded had Anderson not pointed to his knees, a signal for Dustin that a high-risk move was on the way and that he should protect himself by lifting his knees into his opponent's midsection. Dustin had some hairy moments in this match and may have lost had Anderson not been there to guide him to victory. Marty Bell finds herself in no woman's land. She turned on her best friend of 10 years, Allison Kay, convincing herself during a girl talk discussion with Thunder Rosa and Melina that Kay had been keeping her down all of this time. But Bell is also having a hard time proving herself to her new friends. A victory over Tasha Steelz would have helped. During the course of the match, Bell seemed too focused on looking for Melina's approval than on beating her opponent. After almost every move or unsuccessful pin attempt, Bell looked to Melina for guidance rather than relying on her own knowledge of the mat game. Steelz took the win with a diamond cutter in what the commentators called an upset. After the match, Melina screamed in Bell's face, "You had one job to do!" This may have been a case of overmanaging a match. In the case of Arn Anderson, we saw how the role of wrestling manager can be updated for the year 2020. In the case of Melina, we saw how some time-tested methods of storytelling still work in 2020. Managers help to visually tell a story. Seth Rollins turning on the Shield with Triple H at ringside got a much better reaction than Seth Rollins getting on the microphone for 20 minutes and telling us that he's mad at us, so now he's going to turn into a bad guy. Although Triple H wasn't really the manager in this case, he had a position of power, and Seth Rollins aligning himself with Helmsley told us what we needed to know. Red Rooster, getting sick of Heenan's mouth and finally slapping him around, told us they weren't working together anymore. And my boy from Bay 8th Street hardly ever won a match until he crashed a set of primetime wrestling to save Bobby Heenan from the Red Rooster, and in the process smashed a stool into Gorilla Monsoon's exterior occipital protuberance, which is very exposed and very painful. The following week, the Brooklyn Brawler had his first match. I have desperately missed managers in wrestling. I missed Gary Hart telling Terry Gordy, "Watch the count, Bam Bam," to make sure his man left the ring after tagging his partner. I missed Jimmy Hart watching the referee with laser-like precision to find that one chance to kick the junkyard dog. I missed Bobby Heenan's ridiculous hand signs to his wrestlers, as if they conveyed a game plan. I missed J.J. Dillon's Billy Martin-like tantrums with the officials. It's good to see at least two promotions with the belief that it can still work and the guts and creativity to try it. Can Cody trust Arn Anderson? Will Marty Bell finally prove herself worthy to Melina? These questions are more captivating than, will Cody win his next match, or will Marty beat her next opponent? In today's English tip of the week, let's take a look at conjunctions and when we need a comma before one. As we discussed in another lesson, conjunctions join clauses and include and, but, or, and so. You need a comma before a conjunction when the clauses before it and after it are complete sentences. The easiest way to figure out if you need a comma before a conjunction is to eliminate the conjunction. If you have a complete sentence before and after the conjunction, then you need a comma. For example, if I say, "I'm a fan of Charlotte, and I also love Lacey Evans," I would need a comma before and because what precedes it and what follows it are independent clauses, also known as complete sentences. If I say I'm a fan of Charlotte and Lacey, I would not put a comma before and, because while the first part is a complete sentence, the second part, and Lacey, cannot stand on its own. Let's look at a few more examples. Although Captain Lou Albano had managed more than a dozen sets of tag team champions and a couple of intercontinental champions, he still had a unique opportunity at WrestleMania 2. He had the chance for 3 proteges to win championships on the same card. George the Animal Steele challenged Macho Man Randy Savage for the Intercontinental title, and the British Bulldogs challenged the Dream Team for the tag team belts. We know the British Bulldogs won, but George the Animal Steele lost. In the following sentence, the British Bulldogs won, but George the Animal Steele lost. Would we need a comma before but? If we omit the conjunction but, is what's left an independent clause? Is it a complete sentence? George the Animal Steele lost is a complete sentence, an independent clause. And when we have 2 independent clauses, we need a comma before the conjunction. Bobby the Brain Heenan managed the WWF Tag Team Champions and the Intercontinental Champions simultaneously. In this sentence, Bobby Heenan managed Tag Team Champions the Brainbusters and Intercontinental Champion Ravishing Rick Rude. Do we need a comma before and? What follows and? Is it a complete sentence? Intercontinental Champion Ravishing Rick Rude is not a complete sentence. It's a dependent clause, meaning it depends on what comes before and to be a complete sentence. So we don't need a comma before and. In the final example, which sentence do you think requires the comma before the conjunction? A, I don't like Vic Joseph or Michael Cole. B, do you want Tim Storm to win the NWA World Television Title Tournament, or would you rather see the question mark win the tournament? Which sentence requires a comma before the conjunction? In the first sentence, what follows or is Michael Cole. Is this dependent or independent? Is it a complete sentence or not? In the second sentence, what follows or is, would you rather see the question mark win the tournament? Is this a dependent or independent clause? In the first example, a dependent clause follows the conjunction. In the second sentence, an independent clause follows or. Therefore, we need a comma in the second sentence before the conjunction, because the conjunction combines 2 sentences, 2 independent clauses. And with that, class,
You're dismissed.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Randall Floyd, the three-time Ohio Valley Wrestling Television Champion, and you right now are listening to the Can Crushers Podcast.
I don't know what this guy's talking about. All he cares about is baseball right now. This is a wrestling podcast. I tell him all the time, but he actually does make sense with the managers. Are you excited to see more managers?
I am. I don't want it to get overload, but I miss the days of J.J. Dillon, Jim Cornette, Sir Oliver Humperdinck, Paul Jones. I miss that because everybody had their own little sections.
I agree. But at one point, and we're going to stick with the WWF at this point, at one point you had Slick, you had Jimmy Hart, you had Heenan, you had Humperdinck, there was another, you had Fuji, and they were all bad. Okay, heel, however you want to say it, they were all bad. Albano was in and out at that point of being the good manager.
In and out of sobriety.
Well, touche. But do you think there's an overload? You answered my question before I answered it, before I asked it. But wrestling is built around 3, right?
Yeah.
3. I think 3 factions is enough. 4, 5 is over the limit.
Yeah, I think 5 would be over. I think 4, if you have 4, one of those can be just, I don't want to say whipping boy faction, but they can be ones that have an attitude, but they're always kind of pretty much getting beat. I think of the Paul Jones faction in the NWA. Oh, they were big and badass, but they were always getting beat.
Yeah, you had,
and they were to go against mid-card guys like Jimmy Valiant and Pez Whatley and stuff like that. So
they would destroy them.
But then when it come to your pay-per-view matches or something like that, yeah, then they'd get destroyed. I like the idea of it being just heels, because if you look at a face, they're always coming from they're fighting the uphill battle. They're coming from behind. They're going over adversity all the time. So
that's the Cody and Arn thing to wrap it all around.
That's going to be an interesting thing. I still think Arn's going to turn on him. It's Rhodes and Anderson.
John said it.
They had an angle with Ole Anderson back in the NWA where, him and Dusty are just beating the hell out of each other. Dusty's famous promo, "It's not over till it's over."
Nice.
And then they got away, and Ole, turned face, teamed with, 3 or 4 guys through the year, finally got down and asked Dusty. Well, they had 1 match, then they had 2 matches, and he's like, let's put us in a steel cage with them. That way, Tully and Arn can't run. And they got Dusty in a steel cage, and Ole turned on him, and they beat the living piss out of him. Nice. I think that is where they're going to go with this. Arn's going to stay with Cody for a bit, and then when it comes down to maybe for a title, I think he's going to do something and screw him. Because it just doesn't make... I'm sorry. I like Arn. I like Cody.
Right.
But
no,
it's Rhodes and Anderson.
Right. I'm on the same page. It just doesn't... On paper, in old school, and this is just an old school podcast today, apparently, it just doesn't work. All right. Let's talk about some stuff that happened in WWE. Aldis wins his first... Not Aldis. Andrade Almas wins his first title at MSG. We didn't talk about this because we had the week off. Ray has it again for a minute time, and I'm okay that Almas has it. I'm a supporter of Almas. I think he is, a future star. He's there right now, but I think he is somebody that can carry WWE. I really do. Why have this change hand at MSG and not on a pay-per-view or not on TV?
I think because they still are trying to play every so often, and they did this with AJ Styles when he won the title from, who's the big guy from 3MB that he beat for the... Jinder Mahal. They're playing the thing of, you don't know what's going to happen at these, I want to say, house shows, but
they call them live events.
The bigger ones. We're not talking something in State College. We're talking Madison Square Garden. So have something happen. That way people aren't just like, oh, this is Ray's gonna win or
okay.
Something like
on that aspect, let me be devil's advocate. Don't you think you'll get more tickets sold at Waxahachie, Texas, if a title changes hands there? MSG is, if you listen to Lendl, our podcast with Lendl, that's the mecca of pro wrestling. People want to go there. I've never seen a wrestling event there. I saw a basketball game there. And just knowing the history of wrestling, I thought about that more than the Knicks game that I was at. Thinking, holy crap, the stuff that happened here. Oh, the Knicks game's over. Great. I didn't even pay attention. Because I'm like, this is where this happened. This is where this happened. Of course, anything can happen at MSG. It's inevitable. Why not have it happen at State College? Why not have it happen?
Smaller venue.
It doesn't matter.
But it's smaller money in the history.
The history, I agree. Touche.
You know that they're going to have. Where is I want to say Vince's bread buttered at more. You got the larger arenas. They're going to give
a bigger crowd, more money.
Bigger crowd, more money. They're more apt for title changes.
But wouldn't it be shocking if you hear a title change happening in State College?
Well, it definitely would, but that's the whole thing. It'd be shocking. But if it's at Madison Square Garden, you just with that name, you don't know what's going to happen. Is somebody going to make a return there? Is there going to be a title match? the aura of the bigger venues, I think, is what plays into that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but and especially since titles in WWE don't mean crap anymore. But you got to remember back, in the 80s and that. When did you ever see a title change outside of a major arena?
Right. Yeah.
I remember watching the Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express in St. Mary's in a 2 or 3 fall match. I knew damn well the Rock and Roll wasn't going to win the title, but what did they do? First fall, they won. Second fall, Midnight Express cheated. Third fall, they got, if I'm remembering right, they got disqualified. Rock and Roll wins the match, 2 out of 3 titles.
But they don't win
2 out of 3 matches. But
that's a mouthful for you, isn't it?
Yeah. But still your champions.
Right.
So,
you get the crowd, yeah, my God. Oh, crap, they won by DQ. And still your champions, Midnight Express. So they're hightailing it out of there, getting out of the hootenanny. See you later, right?
Yeah, and with Mysterio, I think they're doing him more of a disservice now by these little title reigns and stuff like that.
Are they keeping him just so he fights his son once in WWE?
Maybe they could be going towards that, honestly, because what does he have?
He's done everything. He's a Hall of Famer. Let's just throw that out. He's good. Yeah. He is a Hall of Famer.
Even before
there's nothing else he needs to do.
No. I think they're setting it up for either him against his son or them in a tag team match or something like that on a big card.
Yeah. But sticking with live events for WWE, Randy Orton gets hurt in Hershey the night before Monday Night Raw. He does a tip-up, his knee goes out, and he's coming out to make an announcement on Raw, and this is the only thing on Raw worth a damn, by the way, is Orton comes out on crutches. He's barely getting into the ring. He looks like me on a Thursday after picking up garbage all week. He can't move. And I'm like, this could be, because it was blown up real quick that he got hurt.
Yeah, video from, multiple sources, him being helped out of the ring. I honestly thought, I was like, holy shit, he
tore something.
He tore something. And it reminded me of when Seth Rollins did overseas against Kane.
Yep.
He was going to throw Kane off of the ropes, and when he planted his foot, his knee buckled. That's exactly what happened with Orton. He was going for an RKO.
Yep.
Took the step forward, and his knee went out, and I was like, holy crap, he's legitimately hurt.
Yeah, it went well in Hershey. They planned it, and those two pulled it off. And then Monday night, he gets in the ring. AJ comes out, and he's like, well, I guess we don't have to wrestle till WrestleMania when you come back, and will Randy ever come back? And all of a sudden, they both turn around, and RKO out of freaking nowhere. Randy gets up, and he's showing everybody, tapping his knee like Shawn Michaels, and boom. This is good. This was a good storyline.
It was, and this was not typical for Randy Orton because he has gotten so plain, bland. He's gotten so comfortable, and I may not care for him necessarily, but he is one of the best at the sport, and he was able to just pull this off. I was kind of feeling sorry.
I was too. I'm like, damn, he just re-signed. Is his career over?
And then when AJ, I don't have the patience to wait till then, and lays him out.
But he also mentions somebody else, and I think it's setting up for a return. He mentions Edge in brief passing, saying careers have been ended early. Edge, and guys, I've posted it already on Facebook a couple weeks ago. Edge is cleared. Are we going to get an Edge Orton match at WrestleMania? That's what I'm going at right now.
That is not too bad of an idea. They have enough time to develop it. Could they do something even at the Rumble?
You're going to get AJ Randy at the Rumble. Edge hears rumblings, playing off the words, makes an appearance. Why wouldn't he make an appearance at Rumble? You have 2 months to set it up. nobody has to fight anything in Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber is, for me, a pay-per-view that you can throw away. I hate that stupid cage. I hate the
new one. I wish it was, the older one that was just plain brutal.
Right.
But the newer one
that has more plexiglass than chain on it.
Yeah, it's not good. The older one was it was so much better. The best thing I've seen the last couple of years out of the Elimination Chamber was when Alexa Bliss did.
It's the women again.
The total bliss off of the
cell
on the guy, and that's just because it's Alexa Bliss. But
and let's talk about which was a complete train wreck in a bad way. Not AEW. We want to see a train wreck. This wedding was atrocious. You see a cake the size of a house. Oh, who's in that cake? Right? They overplayed how many people slept with both of them. And what I'm really disappointed about, and your face is already going downhill now, is we've seen all these packages about how Liv Morgan is going to be brought back. She's going to have this change. She's going to do this. She's going to do that. She's a Paul Heyman girl. Heyman loves her. He kind of is the one to put her in this situation. And the storyline of where they're going, Sonya Deville has asked for this. She is, a lesbian. Let's just throw it out without any other things that we can say. She's asked for a storyline like this. Heyman now gives it to Liv Morgan. Why can't we do a service to give this to somebody that wants it, like Sonya, who needs a push? And I'll talk more about her on SmackDown. But this was... I feel bad for Liv for having to be associated with Bob, Rusev, and Lana right now, because I don't think there's one wrestling fan that likes this shit.
No, this is junk. This is trash. This is Vince getting his rocks off by doing stuff. They should have brought Liv back as Sister Abigail and put her in with Bray Wyatt. You're teasing a new look. You're teasing a new attitude, and you bring her back, and nothing against
PC.
Nothing against the lesbians and stuff like that, but this totally destroyed her comeback.
Yep.
And there's something going on. She's pissed Vince off or done something. I
like her better as the old Liv. I mean, I don't know what she's going to do, but she was a misfit. I liked the whole Harley Quinn type of attitude she had. This doesn't, no.
They should have, like I said, they should have brought her back as Sister Abigail, a dark side. I think of the Blade, the Butcher, and the Bunny.
Not the Candlestick Maker?
Not the Candlestick Maker this week. I think of the Bunny, and then I think of her alter ego.
Right.
That's how they should have brought Liv back.
I agree. Let's shift over to SmackDown. One of the things I'm going to talk about, and people are going to be like, oh my God, I'm actually feeling bad for Otis because of the way that Mandy is treating him and everything. And it's not for Otis. It's for Mandy's sake. But it's really not for Mandy's sake either. Because I just said her name. I want Mandy and Sonya to be done. Done. Break them up. You're not doing anything with anybody. I've been an advocate for Sonya when she had her first match against Asuka year and a half, whatever it was, and she looked great in the ring. Everybody wants to see that. I don't want to say Shayna Baszler type, because she's kind of on the same form as Shayna, but she's a different, Shayna just beats the shit out of people. Sonya is more defined.
More technical.
Yeah. I want that. And they will not give us that.
I don't get that either. I've thought for the longest time that Mandy Rose and her would have that angle.
Right.
And yeah, they need to break them up. I'm sorry, Mandy Rose is like,
she's a goddess to you.
There's a couple of levels of hotness. There's like girl next door hotness. There's the girl I'd take home to mom hotness, and then there's the streetwalker hotness. Mandy Rose and the way she acts is like the streetwalker hotness.
Why'd I know you were going down that path? Why'd I know? Otherwise, Otis can go to hell. I don't care. A matchup I was actually excited about, not because of the match, Shorty G against Dash. I'm happy Sheamus is back. Sheamus adds something to the roster. He's brutal. He's got this brutality to him. He's always been, a roughneck.
Yeah, I remember when he won the title from John Cena in that piss-poor tables match where he just pushed Cena off the top rope and Cena fell through the thing. And I was like, oh, this guy's horrible. But then he's developed a lot since then. His matches against Cesaro before they became a tag team.
Great.
They were just two big guys that could be stiff and it'd be better. So I like what he brings back. I hope that he continues to have good health and doesn't get his neck injured again. We'll just have to keep thoughts with that one.
He's a player in WWE all the time. He's always can rocket right up to upper mid card or main event without a doubt. Yeah. A couple returns as briefly over this. The Usos return to help Roman. I could give two craps about the Roman, Daniel, Zig, and Corbin stuff going on. I don't care.
I am so sick of Ziggler, Corbin, and Roman. This is to the point to where I'm just siding with somebody to go nuts and break Corbin and Ziggler's legs. Yeah. Like, for real, break them.
The Usos are back, whatever. You could have had a great match between Braun and Cesaro, but again, this is leading up to Braun against Shinsuke for the Intercontinental title. Yeah.
Do they put it on him?
No.
I'll ask you straight out.
No.
Did they have Braun win it?
No. I would hope not. Braun's the new Big Show. If you're going to put it like that, he doesn't need a title. He's this mastodon that continues to beat people. He doesn't need a title. I'm one to read on him all the time, too. He could have had the Universal or WWE Championship a couple times, but each time he's ready for that push, he becomes a dick backstage, is what is read. I don't know this, but, Meltzer's wrote it. I mean, people that are higher than us. He just turns a switch and becomes a dick backstage so they don't give him the rub. He's gonna get it?
I think they're gonna put it on him. I don't think he's gonna have a long reign, but I think they're gonna put it on him because he's not had, other than with the 12-year-old kid, he's not had any title in WWE. And his contract can't be too far.
You're right.
And I just think they're going to put it on him.
All right. And Miz is battling demons in his head, this, that, and the other thing. John Morrison's back.
I'm happy about that because I always liked him.
I did too. I loved Eminem. I loved Eminem.
I liked some of his stuff even in
Impact.
Impact. I was going to say it was a TNA or Impact. He changed names like 3 times there.
Johnny Morrison, Johnny Retro, which is
Johnny Nitro,
which is on Johnny Retro is on Retromania, by the way, guys. Do you know that? Yeah, just throwing that out there. Yeah. Go ahead.
I like him. I think he's somebody that can mid card maybe push upper card, be participating in upper card matches like multiple man matches that could really support the roster.
Completely agree. All right, so we said we're going to give you some teasers as what's going on. January 11th, a lot of big wrestling going on. One's happening in our neck of the woods, and let me start with that. Imagine Pro Wrestling has their show, Volume 8, in Altoona. Special guest there is Gilbert, so maybe, something will come up with that, and we'll leave it at that. Tickets are still available. No VIPs left. Also, January 11th, Saturday Night Special. It's Nightmare Rumble for OVW. That's in, Louisville, Kentucky. That'll be able to be streamed, and you'll be able to watch that. Continuing to push OVW. The Nightmare Rumble is where it all starts for them each year and year again as well. But you'll hear this Wednesday as we tied in with another one. Why? I don't understand why the hell Chad's laughing. All-Star Pro Wrestling is coming back to Shelbyville, Indiana. And if you heard Dylan Bostic earlier this show, you're going to hear him a lot on Wednesday as we talk about his career and his new venture. So listen to some of the names that he brings up, because you might hear them here in the near future on a spotlight. Why are you laughing at me?
I'm just, we've been friends for what?
Too long.
Right
now at this point, too long.
Long time. When we've been fans of wrestling. You know, it's something I've never seen.
What?
Midget wrestling.
Oh, good call for that, because this is something that we're looking into. April 4th, Extreme Midget Wrestling is coming to the Rex Theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're in contact now with them to possibly help promote, maybe get somebody come on the show to help promote it. And the wife is actually looking to come to this. Now, when I go to the Rex, I see Wrestle Rex that Sam Adonis brings. He's had some OVW guys there. He's had some IWC guys there. He's had, a plethora of people there. It is a frat party with wrestling. There's a bar there all the time. The English professor and I went once. We can talk to Ray Lynn about it. She's been on a couple cards. It's a different show, a different atmosphere. But this is going to be a different show, different atmosphere, because they're selling tickets, so they're actually going to have chairs and such as well. But April 4th, Extreme Midget Wrestling is coming to Pittsburgh at the Rex Theater. And why the hell not, Chad? Tell me why not.
Didn't you say something about there was somebody going to be popping out of a cupcake or something?
I did not say that. I said I was talking in talks with Pinky Shortcake about possibly...
Oh, okay. I thought you said...
Shortcake, yeah.
Okay.
About possibly being on the show. We're talking a month or two down the line to set it up, the dates actually match, because if I promote it now, people are forgetful, they'll forget about it, so hopefully we set something up with them to get her on the show.
So what you're saying is some people have a short memory span?
They do. I'm sorry. This is going to be rough for 2 months, especially if we connect a deal, isn't it? This is going to be bad. Oh, my God. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Where you can find us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. It's all at CanCrusher69. Send us some emails, as we'd like some fan feedback about what the hell is going on right now. It's cancrusher69@gmail.com. Head over to our website. You'll see all our events that we're going to be attending. We'll help promote some stuff. You can listen to all our podcasts. Link from there. It's cancrushers69.wixsite.com/cancrushers. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio, any place that you find a podcast. We're there. We're continuing to grow each and every week. We love it. But one more thing we want to talk about is our guys that helped us out with the new intro. It's 2-to-1 Media. And Jeremy and his boys and gals, they do a lot of great stuff. They do multi-camera live streaming of any event, drone photos and videos, video podcasts. Created the new entry song for us. They did just done so much. Thanks, Nick Lendl, again. Lendl, you're not going to get brought up every show. I'm sorry. I mean, you got a great voice, but for the love of God, if I say Nick Lendl 365 times this year, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle that. But 2-to-1 Media is where it's at. They can help you out with all your live streaming and such. Yeah, that's about going to wrap up this show. Chad, you parting words? You have something on your mind. Good Lord.
Yes, this one, in all seriousness, say, regardless of what you think of the situation, keep the troops that are deploying to Iran and Iraq with the issues that are going on. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers, and their families in your thoughts and prayers. Like I said, regardless of the situation, they're doing a job, that a lot of other people won't do. So let's just get them all back safe.
I can't say anything much better than that. However, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot.